You're about to meet a fish that sees through its own head. A creature with blood that doesn't freeze at temperatures that would kill you in seconds. And an animal that's technically immortal. Not theory, not science fiction. Real animals, living right now thousands of feet below the surface. And they're rewriting everything we thought we knew about what's possible. Let's start with something that should not exist. Number 10. The barrel-eye fish. The transparent-headed freak. Picture this. You're a marine biologist in a submarine, scanning the darkness at 2,000 feet below the surface. Suddenly, your lights catch something. A fish. Normal enough, right? Except you can see its brain. Not because it's injured, because its entire head is transparent. Like someone wrapped a goldfish in plastic wrap and called it a day. Meet Macropinna microstoma, the barrel-eye fish. And yes, that green dome on its head? That's not decoration. That's a transparent shield filled with fluid. And inside it, two tubular eyes pointed straight up like biological periscopes. Those aren't eyes on the front of its face. By the way, those are nostrils. Evolution really said, let's get weird with this one. Here's where it breaks biology. Every vertebrate on Earth has eyes that move in sockets. Fish, birds, mammals, reptiles, all of them. Except this guy. The barrel-eye's eyes are fixed in place, locked in the upward position, staring at the faint light filtering down from above. For decades, scientists thought this fish was stuck looking up forever. A one-trick pony in the dark. Then in 2004, researchers at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute kept one alive long enough to watch it hunt. And the fish did something impossible. It rotated its eyes forward, inside its transparent head. While the eyes stayed inside the fluid-filled dome, they swiveled like turrets, tracking prey in front of it. Imagine if your eyeballs could spin 90 degrees while your skull stayed put. That's what we're dealing with. Why the transparent head? Protection. At those depths, jellyfish are everywhere, trailing stinging tentacles that could shred delicate eye tissue. So evolution gave the barrel-eye a literal force field. A see-through skull that lets light in but keeps the danger out. It's like wearing a motorcycle helmet made of glass. Brilliant. Absolutely terrifying. Number 9. The vampire squid. The living fossil that eats garbage. The name alone sounds like something from a horror movie. Vampiroteuth is infernalis, literally translates to vampire squid from hell. And when scientists first discovered it in 1903, they thought they'd found something truly monstrous. Red eyes, black skin, a cloak of webbed arms. This thing looks like Dracula had a baby with an umbrella. But here's the twist. The vampire squid is probably the most harmless creature on this list. It doesn't hunt, it doesn't bite, it barely moves. This so-called vampire is actually a garbage collector with an anxiety disorder. Most squids are predators. They have 8 arms, 2 feeding tentacles, and they hunt fish, crustaceans, anything they can catch. But they're connected by a web of skin, and instead of tentacles, it has 2 thin filaments. It can extend to 20 feet. That's like if your arm could suddenly stretch across a room. These filaments are covered in tiny hairs that collect marine snow, dead plankton, fecal matter, mucus, the decaying garbage that drifts down from the surface like underwater dandruff. It reels in these filaments, scrapes off the collected gunk with its arms, and eats it. This animal survives on literal waste. It's the janitor of the abyss. And it lives in the oxygen minimum zone, where oxygen levels drop so low that most animals would suffocate in minutes. The vampire squid hangs out there by choice, in water with less than 5% of the oxygen found at the surface. How does it survive? By doing almost nothing. Its metabolism is so slow it barely qualifies as being alive. It drifts. It waits. It collects garbage. When threatened, it doesn't flee. It turns itself inside out, wrapping its arms over its head like a biological panic room, exposing its underside covered in bioluminescent spots. Spiky ball and usually back off. It's like playing dead, except you turn into a Christmas ornament. And here's the kicker. This thing is a living fossil. It's been around for at least 300 million years, virtually unchanged. Longer than dinosaurs. Longer than trees. The vampire squid was collecting garbage at the bottom of the ocean when the first reptiles were learning to walk on land. Respect. Number 8. The blobfish. the most misunderstood animal on Earth. You've seen the photos. The sad, droopy, gelatinous mess that looks like it gave up on life. The blobfish became an internet meme, voted the world's ugliest animal. And here's the thing. That famous image? That's not what a blobfish actually looks like. That's what happens when you drag a deep-sea animal designed for crushing pressure up to the surface where it doesn't belong. It's like judging a human based on how they'd look in the vacuum of space. Not exactly fair. Down at its natural depth, 2,000 to 4,000 feet below the surface, the blobfish looks relatively normal. Slightly pudgy, sure, but it's a functioning fish. The problem is pressure. At those depths, the pressure is 60 to 120 times greater than at sea level. That's like having 100 elephants standing on your body. Every square inch. Most fish have a swim bladder filled with gas that helps them maintain buoyancy. But gas compresses under pressure. At the depths where the blobfish lives, a swim bladder would collapse like a popped balloon. So the blobfish solved the problem by not having one. Instead, its body is made of gelatinous tissue that's slightly less dense than water. No muscles, no effort. It just floats there, mouth open, waiting for food to drift by. This is biology in pure efficiency mode. Why waste energy swimming when you can just exist? The blobfish has a metabolism so slow that it might eat once a week. Maybe less. It doesn't chase prey. It doesn't even really move unless it has to. It's perfected the art of doing absolutely nothing, and surviving anyway. When you haul one up to the surface, the pressure drops, and that gel-like body expands and droops because it's no longer being compressed by tons of water. Imagine if your skeleton was made of jello, and someone suddenly removed gravity. You'd look pretty rough too. So the next time you see that sad blobfish meme, remember it's not ugly. It's dead, and out of its element. Show some respect. The Greenland shark doesn't hit sexual maturity until it's about 150 years old. Think about that. This shark was swimming around before the Civil War, and it still couldn't reproduce. By the time it's ready to mate, empires have risen and fallen. These sharks can live up to 500 years, maybe longer. Scientists found one female estimated to be 392 years old, give or take 120 years. That margin of error alone is longer than the entire history of the United States. This shark was born during the reign of King James I. It was swimming when Shakespeare was still writing plays. The Greenland shark is almost blind. Not because of age, because of parasites. A small crustacean called Omitocotita elongata latches onto the shark's eyes and just lives there. Forever, eating the cornea. Every Greenland shark has these parasites. Every single one. It's like if every human was born with a tapeworm and we just accepted it as normal. But blindness doesn't matter when you live in near total darkness. The Greenland shark navigates by smell and electrical signals. Painfully slow. Its average swimming speed is less than 1 mile per hour. That's slower than you walk. Yet somehow, scientists have found remains of seals, polar bears, and even reindeer in their stomachs. How does the slowest shark in the ocean catch fast prey? It waits for them to sleep, or it scavenges corpses, or it sneaks up on seals resting on ice. It's the ambush predator that takes patience to a whole new level. Oh, and its flesh is toxic. Seriously, the meat is loaded with trimethylamine oxide, which breaks down into tremethylamine. Eating it fresh will make you violently ill, giving you symptoms similar to extreme drunkenness. In Iceland, they bury the shark meat underground for months to ferment and flush out the toxins. The result is called hakarl, and it's considered one of the worst-tasting foods on Earth. Anthony Bourdain called it the single worst, most disgusting and terrible-tasting thing he'd ever eaten. And this guy ate beating cobra hearts. So, to recap, this shark lives for centuries, is blind from parasites, swims slower than you walk, and is literally poisonous. And it's thriving. Evolution doesn't always reward speed and strength. Sometimes it rewards being too toxic to eat, and too patient to care. Number 6. The Dumbo octopus. The deepest living octopus. Almost. Until you remember it lives in a place that would kill you faster than drowning. The Dumbo octopus lives at depths exceeding 23,000 feet. That's deeper than Mount Everest is tall. The pressure down there is over 700 times what you experience at sea level. Your lungs would collapse in an instant. Your bones would compress. You'd be crushed into a human pancake. The Dumbo octopus floats around down there like it's no big deal. It has two ear-like fins on top of its head that flap like Dumbo's ears, which is adorable until you think about the fact that it's surviving in conditions that would obliterate you. It hovers above the seafloor, searching for worms and crustaceans, occasionally using its 8 arms to crawl along the bottom. Here's what breaks biology. Octopuses are supposed to be short-lived. Most species live 1 to 2 years. They reproduce once and die. It's a harsh, fast life. But the Dumbo octopus might live up to 5 years, and unlike other octopuses, it doesn't have a specific breeding season. It can reproduce year-round. Females carry eggs at multiple stages of development, which means they can release them whenever conditions are right. That kind of reproductive flexibility is rare in the deep sea, where food is scarce and opportunities are few. And like all deep-sea creatures, it moves in slow motion. There's no rush when you live where nothing else can survive. It's weirdly peaceful down there. Just a little octopus with elephant ears, drifting through the absolute void, munching on worms, living its best life in the most hostile environment on Earth. Number 5. The fangtooth fish, the all-teeth nightmare. If the deep sea had a poster child for nightmare fuel, it would be the fangtooth. This fish is maybe 6 inches long, tiny. You could hold it in your palm, but its teeth are so disproportionately large that it can't fully close its mouth. The 2 largest fangs on its lower jaw are so long they have special sockets in the fish's skull to keep them from piercing its own brain when it closes its mouth. Read that again. This fish has teeth so big it evolved skull pockets to avoid accidentally stabbing itself in the brain. That's like if your canine teeth were so long they had to slide into grooves in your forehead. Functional? Sure. Horrifying? Absolutely. The fangtooth lives between 1,600 and 6,500 feet deep, where sunlight never reaches. It's pitch black down there, and food is scarce. So when you find food, you need to grab it. Those massive teeth ensure that whatever it bites isn't getting away. It doesn't have the luxury of being picky. Fish, crustaceans, anything small enough to fit. The fangtooth hunts by bumping into things in the dark. It's like playing tag with knives in a pitch-black room. And despite looking like something from an alien horror movie, the fangtooth is actually pretty harmless to humans. It's too small to do any real damage. But that face, those teeth, that's a face only a mother could love. And even she'd probably have second thoughts. Number 4. The gulper eel, the living trash bag. Imagine a fish that's mostly mouth, like 90% mouth. The gulper eel, also called the pelican eel, has a mouth so large it can swallow prey bigger than itself. Its jaw unhinges, its stomach expands, and it just inhales whatever floats by. It's less a predator and more a biological vacuum cleaner with a tail. This thing can grow up to 3 feet long, but most of that length is its whip-like tail. The body itself is tiny, the mouth is enormous, and that giant mouth is attached to a throat that can stretch like a balloon. When it catches something large, its entire body distorts around the meal. It's the snake swallowing an egg thing, but underwater and way more disturbing. The gulper eel lives at depths of 3,000 to 6,000 feet, where meals are rare, so when food shows up, you can't afford to be size-conscious. Evolution gave this eel the ability to eat whatever it encounters, regardless of how absurdly large it is. A crustacean twice your size swimming by. Open wide. Just swallow the whole thing and deal with digestion later. And here's the weird part. Scientists aren't entirely sure what it eats. Stomach contents suggest small crustaceans, but that giant mouth seems over-engineered for tiny prey. Some think it might gulp in huge amounts of water and filter out food. Others think it might scoop up marine snow in bulk. Nobody knows for sure. This fish has a mouth the size of a basketball, and we still can't figure out what it's for. Classic deep-sea mystery. Number 3. The immortal jellyfish. The actual cheat code Turritopsis dohrnii. The only animal on Earth that can theoretically live forever. Not because it ages slowly. Not because it has good genes. Because it can reverse its own aging process. Sick or injured, it can revert back to its juvenile polyp stage. It de-ages. Literally. Like Benjamin Button, but real. Here's how it works. Most jellyfish have a life cycle. They start as polyps, grow into medusas, reproduce and die. Done. But when the immortal jellyfish reaches the end of its life cycle, instead of dying it sinks to the ocean floor, reabsorbs its tentacles, and transforms back into a polyp. Then it grows up again. And it can do this indefinitely, over and over. This violates one of the fundamental rules of biology. DNA degrades. Organisms die. That's how life works. Except this jellyfish said, remember, it still gets eaten. Predators don't care about your immortality if you're delicious. Disease can kill it. Physical damage can kill it. But age is optional. And that's breaking the rules in a way that makes scientists very uncomfortable and very curious. Scientists exploring hydrothermal vents near Easter Island found something nobody expected. A crab covered in hair, not fur, hair-like filaments called setae, so dense it looked like the crab was wearing a sweater. They named it Kiwa hirsuta, the Yeti crab, because what else do you call a hairy crab living near underwater volcanoes, where superheated water blasts out of the ocean floor at temperatures exceeding 750 degrees Fahrenheit? That's hot enough to melt lead. And the Yeti crab hangs out right next to it. The water just inches away would boil you alive. But the crab doesn't care. It waves its hairy arms in the vent flow, farming bacteria on those filaments like an underwater gardener. That's right, it farms. Those hairy arms are covered in chemosynthetic bacteria that convert toxic vent chemicals into food. The crab cultivates the bacteria, then scrapes them off and eats them. It's growing its own meals on its body. Imagine if you could grow vegetables on your arms and snack on them whenever you got hungry. That's the Yeti crab's entire strategy. And it lives in one of the most toxic environments on Earth. Hydrothermal vents spew out hydrogen sulfide, which is deadly to most life. But the Yeti crab doesn't just tolerate it. It thrives on it. Its bacterial farms need those chemicals to survive. What kills everything else is its grocery store. Number 1. The Antarctic icefish. The bloodless wonder. We've reached the ultimate rule breaker. A fish with no red blood cells, no hemoglobin, transparent blood. The Antarctic icefish lives in water so cold it should be frozen solid. -2 degrees Celsius. Below freezing. Barely. Every other vertebrate on Earth uses hemoglobin to carry oxygen in red blood cells. It's non-negotiable. Without it, you suffocate. Your organs shut down. You die. The icefish evolved in waters so oxygen-rich and so cold that it didn't need hemoglobin. Oxygen dissolves better in cold water, and the icefish has a massive heart, oversized blood vessels, and blood that flows at high volume. It absorbs oxygen directly through its skin and gills, letting it diffuse into the bloodstream. Its blood is clear, translucent. If you cut this fish, it doesn't bleed red, and its heart is 3 times larger than it should be for its body size, pumping that oxygen-rich plasma through enormous blood vessels. It's like if you removed all the red blood cells from your body and compensated by making your heart the size of a watermelon. Inefficient? Maybe. But it works. And the cold doesn't kill it because its blood contains antifreeze proteins. Literally, glycoproteins that prevent ice crystals from forming in its tissues. Without them, the icefish would freeze solid from the inside out. These proteins bind to tiny ice crystals and stop them from growing. It's a biological antifreeze system, so effective that scientists are studying it for everything from organ preservation to cryogenics. This fish rewrote vertebrate biology. It removed a fundamental component of animal life and survived anyway. That's not just breaking the rules. That's deleting them entirely. The deep sea is full of creatures that shouldn't exist. Animals that age backwards, survive without blood, farm bacteria on their bodies, and live for centuries in crushing darkness. They've evolved in isolation, under pressure, in cold and toxic environments, and they've done things biology said were impossible. And here's the best part. We've explored less than 5% of the ocean, which means there are probably hundreds more species down there, breaking rules we haven't even discovered yet. The deep sea isn't just weird. It's a laboratory where evolution experiments with the impossible and somehow makes it work. So the next time someone tells you something can't be done, just remember there's a fish out there with a transparent head, a jellyfish that refuses to die, and a crab that farms its own food on its arms. If they can break the rules, maybe you can too.